The day I found the hidden door in my new house was like any other. The house was old, a bit run down, but had a certain charm that drew me in from the moment I saw it. I was unpacking boxes in the dusty attic when I noticed something peculiar. There, behind a stack of old, rotting wood, was a door. It was small, almost too small for an adult to fit through, and covered in cobwebs. My heart pounded in my chest as I cleared away the debris, revealing the door's rough wooden surface. The house creaked and groaned as if it were alive, responding to my every move. The hidden door seemed out of place, almost as if it didn't belong to the rest of the house. Its surface was cold and worn, with deep scratches that suggested it had been there for a long time. I knelt down, my breath quickening, and reached out to touch the door's surface. A shiver ran down my spine as I felt the rough texture under my fingers. My curiosity was piqued, but an unsettling fear began to gnaw at the edges of my mind. I tried to push the door open, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked, and the lock seemed ancient, rusted with age. I stepped back, my heart still racing, and surveyed the room. The attic was dimly lit, the single bulb casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Dust particles floated in the air, and the musty smell of old wood filled my nostrils. I felt a strange mix of excitement and dread, wondering what secrets lay behind that door. The rest of the day was a blur. I couldn't shake the image of the door from my mind. What was behind it? Why was it hidden so deliberately? My thoughts were consumed by these questions as I wandered through the house, trying to focus on the mundane tasks of unpacking and organizing. But my mind kept drifting back to the attic, to the door, and to the mysteries it held. As night fell, the house seemed to come alive with a new energy. The walls groaned, and the floors creaked under my feet. Shadows lengthened and darkened, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. I knew I had to find a way to open that door. There was no turning back now. Whatever was hidden behind it, I was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the hidden door. Determined to find a way to open it, I began searching the house for anything that might serve as a key. I scoured the kitchen drawers, the old study, and even the basement, but found nothing. Frustration started to build, and a sense of urgency gnawed at me. I needed to know what was behind that door. As the hours passed, I decided to take a break and explore the garden. The overgrown bushes and tangled vines gave the place an eerie, abandoned feel. As I was poking around the garden shed, something caught my eye. Tucked away in a dusty corner, beneath a pile of old gardening tools, was a small, ornate box. My heart skipped a beat as I carefully opened it, revealing an old, rusty key inside. The key was unlike any I had ever seen. Its intricate design suggested it was crafted many years ago, perhaps specifically for the hidden door. Holding it in my hand, I felt a strange connection to the house, as if the key was calling out to me. I quickly made my way back to the attic, the key clutched tightly in my hand. The house seemed to respond to my urgency, the floorboards creaking louder with each step. Standing in front of the hidden door once more, I took a deep breath and inserted the key into the lock. It fit perfectly, as if it were made for this very moment. With a click, the lock turned and the door creaked open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the light from the attic. A cold draft hit me, sending shivers down my spine. I hesitated, my heart racing, but my curiosity was too strong to resist. I stepped inside, the air growing colder with each step. The room was small and cramped, filled with old, decaying furniture covered in dust. A faint, musty smell lingered in the air, mixing with the scent of aged wood. The walls were lined with shelves, cluttered with books and objects that looked like they belonged to another era. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed something strange: an old, framed photograph on the wall. The photograph was of a family standing in front of the very house I was in. They looked happy, but there was something off about their expressions. Their eyes seemed vacant, as if they were hiding a dark secret. My mind raced with possibilities, and an unsettling feeling grew in the pit of my stomach. What had happened to this family, and what was their connection to the hidden room? As I continued to explore the room, I felt an inexplicable sense of being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I could almost hear faint whispers echoing in the corners. My fear grew, but so did my determination. There was more to uncover, and I knew I had only scratched the surface of the room's secrets. With the hidden door now open, the small, cramped room lay before me, filled with shadows and the weight of forgotten memories. The musty smell of decaying furniture and old books permeated the air, creating an atmosphere that was both unsettling and intriguing. I took a cautious step inside, the wooden floorboards creaking under my weight, as if protesting my intrusion. The room was unlike any other part of the house. Dust-covered shelves lined the walls, holding an array of peculiar objects: antique dolls with cracked porcelain faces, old leather-bound books, and various trinkets that seemed to belong to a bygone era. A heavy silence filled the room, broken only by the faint sound of my breathing. The dim light from the attic barely penetrated the darkness, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. As I moved further into the room, I noticed a small desk in the corner, its surface cluttered with papers and what appeared to be an old journal. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached it, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. The journal looked ancient, its leather cover worn and faded. I reached out with trembling hands and opened it, revealing yellowed pages filled with handwritten notes. The handwriting was elegant, yet hurried, as if the writer was documenting something urgent. As I read the entries, a chill ran down my spine. The journal belonged to the previous occupant of the house, a man named Edward. His entries detailed strange occurrences and unexplainable events that had plagued him and his family. The deeper I delved into his words, the more I realized that Edward had been tormented by something sinister. My mind raced with questions. What had Edward discovered in this room? What dark secrets had driven him to the brink of madness? The further I read, the more I felt a growing connection to him, as if his fears and obsessions were becoming my own. The last entry was particularly haunting. It spoke of a presence in the room, something unseen but felt, watching his every move. Suddenly, I felt a cold draft brush past me, causing the hairs on my arms to stand up. My breath hitched, and I spun around, half expecting to see someone, or something, standing behind me. But the room was empty, filled only with shadows and the echoes of my own fear. I tried to shake off the feeling, but the sense of being watched grew stronger with each passing moment. Determined to uncover the truth, I continued to explore the room. I found old photographs, their edges frayed and colors faded with time. The images were of the same family I had seen earlier, their vacant eyes now seeming even more unsettling. As I examined one of the photographs, a small piece of paper fell out from behind the frame. It was a letter, written in the same elegant handwriting as the journal. The letter spoke of a dark secret hidden within the house, something that should never be uncovered. My heart raced as I realized the gravity of Edward's words. Whatever was hidden in this room, it had consumed him, and now it was threatening to consume me. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in, as if trying to keep its secrets hidden. But I knew I couldn't turn back now. The mystery of the room and its dark past had become my own. The eerie feeling of being watched intensified as I delved deeper into the secrets of the hidden room. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the old house settling. I tried to steady my breathing, but my heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears. The walls seemed to close in around me, the air growing colder and heavier with each passing moment. I began to notice subtle changes in the atmosphere. The once still air now carried a faint, almost imperceptible whisper, as if the room itself was trying to communicate. My eyes darted around, searching for the source of the sound, but there was nothing, just shadows and the dim outline of the old furniture. A sense of dread settled over me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Determined to uncover more, I examined the shelves that lined the walls. Among the dusty books and trinkets, I found a small, intricately carved box. Its surface was smooth, worn from years of handling, and the design was unlike anything I had seen before. With trembling hands, I opened the box, revealing a collection of old letters and photographs. The letters were brittle, their edges frayed, and the photographs were faded, the faces almost indistinguishable. As I sifted through the contents, I felt a sudden sharp pain in my head, like a needle piercing my thoughts. I stumbled back, clutching my temples, as a flood of images and emotions washed over me. I saw flashes of the family who once lived here, moments of joy and sorrow, fear and despair. Their voices echoed in my mind, a cacophony of whispers that I couldn't escape. The pain was overwhelming, and I sank to my knees, gasping for breath. When the pain finally subsided, I was left with a lingering sense of unease. The room felt different now, as if it had shifted, becoming something darker and more malevolent. The shadows seemed to move on their own, stretching and twisting in ways that defied logic. I could feel eyes on me, watching my every move, but no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't see them. I stood up, my legs shaky, and tried to focus on the task at hand. There had to be a reason why this room was hidden, why its secrets were buried so deep. I returned to the desk, my eyes scanning the old journal for any clues I might have missed. Edward's words took on a new meaning, his fear and paranoia now resonating with my own. He had written about the presence, the unseen force that tormented him and his family, driving them to the brink of madness. As I read his final entry, a sense of dread settled over me. Edward had believed that the presence was connected to the house itself, that it fed on the fears and emotions of those who lived there. He had tried to protect his family, but in the end, it had consumed them. The realization hit me like a cold wave. I was not alone in this house, and whatever had haunted Edward was now focused on me. The room seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, the air thick with tension. I knew I had to leave, to get out before it was too late. But as I turned to go, I felt a cold hand brush against my arm, stopping me in my tracks. My heart skipped a beat, and I spun around, expecting to see someone behind me. But there was nothing, just the empty room, and its dark secrets. Panic set in, and I fled the attic, slamming the hidden door shut behind me. I couldn't stay away. The next day, I found myself back in the hidden room, drawn by an inexplicable force. The photograph of the family haunted me, their vacant eyes seeming to follow my every move. I reached for an old diary on the shelf, its cover worn and faded. Opening it, I began to read the entries, feeling a deep connection to the words. The diary belonged to a woman named Margaret. Her entries started out mundane, but soon turned dark. She wrote about strange noises at night, the feeling of being watched, and shadows that seemed to move on their own. My heart raced as I read her words, feeling her fear and desperation seep into my own thoughts. Margaret's entries detailed her growing paranoia. She wrote about her children's nightmares, her husband's erratic behavior, and her own descent into madness. Each page was filled with her fear, her desperation to protect her family from the unseen presence. It became clear that whatever had haunted Edward had also tormented Margaret. The final entry sent chills down my spine. Margaret spoke of a dark secret, something hidden within the room that must never be found. She pleaded with whoever read her diary to leave the house, to escape before it was too late. Her words were a stark warning, a desperate cry for help that echoed in my mind. I closed the diary, my hands trembling. The room seemed to close in around me, the shadows growing darker, the air colder. The presence was stronger now, feeding off my fear. I knew I had to uncover the secret Margaret spoke of, to understand the darkness that consumed her family. But deep down, I feared that doing so would seal my own fate. Determined to uncover the truth, I began searching the room more thoroughly. The air was thick with tension, each creak of the floorboards echoing ominously. On the back of a shelf, I found a hidden compartment. My heart raced as I pried it open, revealing a bundle of old documents in a small, ornate box. The documents were brittle and yellowed with age. As I carefully unfolded them, I realized they were letters and legal papers detailing the history of the house. The letters spoke of a dark family secret, a hidden crime that had cursed the house and its occupants. The legal papers hinted at desperate attempts to cover up the truth. Opening the ornate box, I found a collection of small, peculiar items. There were old coins, a locket with a faded photograph, and a strange, carved amulet. Each item seemed to hold a piece of the puzzle, a fragment of the dark history that had been buried for so long. I felt a chill as I touched the amulet, its cold surface sending a shiver down my spine. As I examined the items, a sense of dread settled over me. The room felt alive with a malevolent energy, the shadows seeming to pulse and shift. The unseen presence was stronger now, almost palpable. I could feel its eyes on me, watching my every move, feeding on my fear and confusion. I had uncovered part of the truth, but the full extent of the horror was still hidden. Desperate to understand, I returned to the documents, searching for more clues. The letters spoke of a dark ritual, a pact made in desperation to protect the family from an unknown threat. The ritual had bound the family to the house, trapping their spirits within its walls. The presence was the manifestation of their fear and anguish, a haunting that would never end. As the truth of the dark ritual settled in, I felt my sanity slipping. The oppressive atmosphere of the house weighed heavily on me, each creak and groan amplifying my fear. The shadows in the hidden room seemed to writhe and pulse, as if alive with malevolent intent. I could feel the presence more acutely now, a constant chilling weight on my shoulders. My sleep was plagued by nightmares. I dreamt of the family, their hollow eyes and tormented faces haunting my every thought. They reached out to me, their whispers echoing in my mind, begging for release. I woke each morning drenched in sweat, the line between reality and nightmare blurring with each passing day. The house seemed to feed on my fear, growing darker and more oppressive. I spent my days in a fog, my mind consumed by the room and its secrets. I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched, the sensation of cold fingers brushing against my skin. The once comforting sounds of the house now filled me with dread, each creak a reminder of the unseen presence. My reflection in the mirror showed a stranger, eyes hollow and filled with fear. Determined to break the cycle, I sought solace in the letters and documents. They hinted at a way to end the curse, a final act to free the spirits trapped within the house. But the path was fraught with danger, requiring a confrontation with the darkness that had claimed so many lives. I knew the price of failure, but the weight of the spirit's torment drove me forward. The presence grew more aggressive, its whispers turning into an insidious roar. Objects moved on their own, and the air was thick with a malevolent force. I felt the walls closing in, the house tightening its grip around me. My desperation grew, each day a battle against the encroaching darkness. I had to find a way to end it, to free myself and the tormented souls trapped within these walls. The hidden room's oppressive atmosphere grew thicker with each passing day. My mind teetered on the edge of sanity as I delved deeper into the house's dark history. Determined to end the curse, I focused on the final pieces of the puzzle. The diary entries, letters, and documents hinted at a final ritual that could free the trapped spirits and break the house's malevolent hold. I found an old, tattered book among the documents, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and rituals. The book detailed a complex ritual to cleanse the house and release the spirits. It required specific items, the amulet, the locket, and a personal item from the family. My heart pounded as I gathered the necessary objects, the weight of their history heavy in my hands. The night of the ritual, the house was eerily silent. I set up in the hidden room, arranging the items according to the book's instructions. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to close in, as if the house itself was watching. I lit candles and began to chant the incantations, my voice trembling with fear and determination. As I performed the ritual, the presence grew stronger, a palpable force pressing against me. The shadows writhed, and the room seemed to pulse with dark energy. I felt a cold, clammy hand brush against my arm, but I refused to stop. The spirit's whispers grew louder, their pleas mingling with the malevolent roar of the presence. My voice rose, matching the intensity of the house's anger. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the room, and the presence let out a final deafening scream. The shadows convulsed and then dissolved, leaving the room eerily still. I fell to my knees, exhausted but hopeful. The air felt lighter, and the oppressive weight had lifted. I had done it. I had freed the spirits and broken the house's curse. But as I looked around, the room seemed emptier, the echoes of the past fading into silence. In the days following the ritual, the house felt different. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by an eerie stillness. I walked through the rooms, expecting to feel a sense of relief, but instead, a profound sadness settled over me. The house was quiet, the whispers and shadows gone, but the weight of its history remained. It was as if the walls themselves mourned the loss of the spirits that had once filled them. Despite the silence, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The events of the past weeks haunted me, replaying in my mind like a never-ending nightmare. The faces of the family, their hollow eyes and tormented expressions, lingered in my thoughts. I had freed them, but their suffering had left a mark on my soul. The house, though cleansed, felt empty and desolate. I tried to resume a normal life, but the memories of the hidden room and its dark secrets refused to fade. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow that flickered in the corner of my eye, brought back the fear and dread. I felt a deep connection to the family, their pain now a part of me. The diary, letters, and photographs were constant reminders of the house's tragic past. One evening, as I sat in the living room, I noticed a faint, flickering light coming from the attic. My heart raced as I climbed the stairs, a sense of foreboding settling over me. The hidden room's door was ajar, a soft glow emanating from within. I stepped inside, my breath catching in my throat. The room was as I had left it, but the shadows seemed to shift and move, a faint whisper echoing in the silence. In the center of the room stood the family, their forms faint and translucent. They looked at me with a mix of gratitude and sorrow, their eyes no longer hollow, but filled with a deep sadness. I realized then that the ritual had not freed them completely. Their spirits were still bound to the house, trapped in a perpetual cycle of torment. The weight of their suffering pressed down on me, and I felt tears well up in my eyes. As the family began to fade, their forms dissolving into the shadows, I knew that I could not stay in the house any longer. The memories, the pain, and the presence of the spirits were too much to bear. I left the room, closing the door behind me, and made my way down the stairs. The house, once a place of curiosity and intrigue, had become a prison of sorrow and despair. I packed my belongings and left the house that night, the sense of loss and grief overwhelming. As I drove away, the house loomed in the rearview mirror, a dark silhouette against the night sky. I knew that I would never return, but the memories of the hidden room and its tragic secrets would haunt me forever. The house, though cleansed of its curse, remained a place of darkness and sorrow, a testament to the lives it had claimed and the secrets it held.